the fact that death is sleep, it's not conscious torment or conscious purgatory or conscious limbo or any of that mystic, paganistic doctrine of devils, and there's no time in conscious of time in sleep, then what is the experience of death? The experience of death, okay, let me add one more element here. Stay with me. Dr. Earl taught that sickness is death in part or in whole. We've already experienced it. There's nothing to be afraid of, because when we fall asleep, well, let me rephrase that. You hear that in the world all the time. There are things to be afraid of, but you do not need to succumb to them. You can deal with them, arrange your thinking, and then your believing heart will respond properly when the occasion arrives. That's right. Any experience of death I have, it's going on now. We've all been sick. We've all had aches and pains. Some of them have it right now, don't we? We've all had disappointment, discouragement in the physical realm. We've all been injured and hurt and knocked around. That's the only experience of death I'm ever going to have. It's just what I deal with on a daily basis, dealing with life. How do you like that? I think that's comforting. I hope you don't think that's, what's that word they use? Morbid? No. Or macabre. I think it's comforting. The greatest experiences of death I'm going to have are the sickness and disease that we all have to fight through in this life. And we are doing it and have done it and continue to do it. Because when I fall asleep, bam, bam, quicker than a bam, bam, I got the new body, dude. Yes, sirree, bobbly. Whether 1,000 years have passed since I literally died on this earth, if the Lord tarries, to my awakening to be like him, for I shall see him as he is. For this I love his appearing. My only experience of death is what I deal with every day, day by day. I can deal with that. Yep, I can deal with that. Shoot fire and save your matches. Look at John 16, talking about God being with us right to our last breath. Look what Jesus said in verse 32. Behold, this Dr. Earl showed us this in the foundational class. The hour cometh, yea, is now come, that ye shall be scattered every one to his own, and shall leave me alone. And yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. And of course, there he confronted the old evangelical religious teaching that Jesus Christ took on the sins of humankind, so God couldn't stand sin, so he turned his back on his only begotten Son, so he died. No, see, that's a wrong dividing of the word. We know that he had to die twice. That's in Jesus Christ, our Passover, the two deaths. He had to die twice. He died spiritually. He had to forfeit the spirit to fulfill all that he was sent to fulfill as the sacrificial lamb, and he died physically, but it would have been almost simultaneous. And yet God was still with him because of his sovereignty through the whole thing. But they read it, they cast aspersions on Jesus Christ, and they say, well, he was all sin. God was disgusted with him. How, good grief, how schizophrenic would God be, where he's the one that sent him forth to live and die and be the sacrificial lamb and take on the sins of the world, and then he acts all disgusted about it? What kind of paradoxical, schizophrenic, ridiculous enmity with the true God be to act like that? And yet preachers convince people. Well, to hell with them. They don't convince us. We rightly divide the word of truth. Do we not? How about indeed and in truth? Man, oh man, this is fun. I'm telling you what, we are dealing with that subject, but dealing with it from the Word to take the fear out and to show you how our Father is with us right to our last breath. And our last breath should be in complete alignment and harmony with him. Set that in your anticipation. Now we all anticipate the return. Same difference. It's just going to be boom, boom, and we're there. Falling asleep, same difference. Boom, boom. We're going to be there. So therefore, perfect love casteth out fear. How about that? Look at Ecclesiastes 3. For those great fans of the dead being alive, all flipping around up there doing something, and people pray to their dead relatives, all that malarkey. That's all paganism, all false hope. That's all devil spirits impersonating. If somebody thinks they heard from their grandma, it was a devil spirit impersonating their grandma. Because these spirits pay attention to our lives, and they know details about us that can be used against others if indeed that false teaching dominates. They're not hearing from their grandmother, whether it's in a seance or in their dreams or in their prayer lives or walking down the road. You hear people testify to this all the time. My dead father talked to me. You know, there was a story about the great professional golfer, Payne Stewart. His dad died, and he went to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist, he talked about how he missed his father deeply, and the psychiatrist talked him into, well, why don't you talk to him? You see this in movies, too, don't you? People go to graves, and they sit there, and they act like they're talking to the person. That's dangerous junk. They act like they're talking to their dead spouse or child. And I mean, it's terrible hurt. Death is, especially when people are taken in the youth of their days. But that is not the way to deal with it. They are not alive. If people think they're alive, it's a spirit impersonating the habits of that person. It's just these damn devils of death and error and slumber, and using that hurt to manipulate and ruin people. Yeah, and Payne Stewart, his psychiatrist, talked him into, well, you should just talk to your father. So he started doing that, and it wasn't too long after that he was, I would like to say, spiritually murdered in that horrible airplane accident where he and his agent and some friends were in a private plane flying to a golf tournament. Some of you sports fans already know of this. And they had some kind of malfunction in the ventilation, and they were all asphyxiated, gassed or whatever, the pilot and all of them. And the authorities found out about it, and they sent up jets to follow the plane. Everyone was dead. It was on automatic pilot. And thank God it crashed in a farm field somewhere up in Michigan when it finally ran out of gas. But that's how the spirit realm killed him. That's what he got for taking the advice of that damn psychiatrist. So why don't you just go ahead and talk to your dead father? Yes, that's an illustration. So it's dangerous. And it shouldn't be done. Why not talk to a living God instead of a dead relative? Because it's not the relative. It's just devil spirits impersonating if people think they're having answers. And, of course, dreams are a great counterfeit. Oh, my God, dreams. One of the great counterfeits of spiritualism are people that think that God or their grandma or I don't know, Genghis Khan or Hannibal the Great or, you know, Einstein are talking to them in their dreams. What a crock of crap. That's, again, where they don't rightly divide the word of truth. You got to work that book and continue to work it if you're hazy on this stuff. Are the dead alive now? There's only 7 or 8 records in the Word that the adversary uses and the preachers use to try to convince people that the dead are alive. And in Are the Dead Alive Now, he very simply and beautifully and tenderly shows how those records are wrongly divided, including the transformation and transfiguration of Jesus Christ before the apostles when he was speaking to Moses and Elijah, and he shows that's a vision. It wasn't literally Moses and Elijah, no more than it was literally Samuel that came up by the woman of Endor to speak to Saul. It was the imitation by the spirits of the voice of Samuel to so condemn Saul that he finally opened up to a devil spirit of suicide. So these things can and should be and have to be rightly divided.